Hello everybody, this is Sharky Pro Diver, and today we're going to discuss the theory on Magic the Gathering lore. Today's question is Amonkhet the meditation plane? During this video, we will discuss the mentioned above theory and several other theories for which I have less evidence and information, but which are nonetheless be good for discussion. If only you knew how bloody difficult it is to draw Bolas's horns. The labor is unreal, especially for someone who never did arts. Let's start by giving a brief explanation of what Amonkhet and Meditation Plane, also known as Meditation Realm, Bolas's Meditation Plane, and the Pools of Backgammon all are. Amonkhet is the new plane that is to be introduced in the lore of Magic the Gathering. This plane is themed on the ancient Egypt, and it will feature Bolas and the world that he has totally controls and, according to Liliana, has created. The world features many warriors that Bolas trains to become the worthy, and recently we have gotten a very large spoiler that showcased the full art basic lands. All of those basic lands have one thing in common. They all feature the structure that looks like Bolas's horns. They cannot belong to Bolas because they are simply too large in their size and are probably a part of the plane's landscape created by Bolas. The Meditation Realm was a pocket dimension on Dominaria created by Bolas. It was accessible by Bolas and his trusted advisors and helpers on Dominaria. The image of the plane that was shown in the plane chase under the name of Planes of Becoming and with the subtype Bolas's Meditation Realm showcased a landscape that had one prominent feature, Bolas's horns right in the middle. Therefore, there is a visual similarity between the basic cards of Amonkhet and the image of the meditation plane. They all contain exactly the same sign, which is extremely large and extremely visible on every single landscape. This is a visual connection that caught my attention when I was looking at the Plane Chase Anthology set and the spoilers of Amonkhet. The big question of course remains, what has it got to do with all of each other? The visual imagery is of course quite important, but we need some more solid evidence. Ironically enough, Ajani, a Leonine planeswalker, has decided to travel to Dominaria right after the events of Kaladesh Either Revolt. Ajani is a planeswalker that has already met with Bolas, and my question is to Ajani's story is why would he travel to Dominaria? He says he is there to gather allies, and it is not impossible for him to have traveled to Dominaria, but there is a small issue I have right now. From what we know of Ajani's lore, he was born on Naya, shard plane of Alara. He planeswalked to Band, and later, once Alara was re-emerged during the events of conflicts, he was on Alara and battled Bolas by using Effigy of Bolas to defeat the latter. Later he traveled to the plane of Theros, following Elspeth Tyrell, and witnessed her death, and he has recently appeared on Kaladesh, the plane that I forgot to write over here. Give me a second. Here we go, it is all fixed. So after Theros, Ajani travels to the plane of Kaladesh, and in the flashbacks we learn in the Kaladesh story, we also come to find out that Ajani was on Kamigawa and is a close friend of Tamiyo. Therefore, those are the planes we know that Ajani has traveled to. But Dominaria is not yet mentioned in the lore. We do not know who Ajani has affiliation with on Dominaria necessarily. We do not know how long he has been there or whether he has been there at all confirmed. But Dominaria is tied less to Ajani but to Bolas, and here is how. As mentioned before, the Meditation Realm is Bolas's pocket dimension that he has created on the plane of Dominaria. Bolas has ruled the Madara Empire. Madara Empire was a nation that, as I said before, was ruled by Bolas, who was the god emperor, so to speak, of the Madara Empire, a rather interesting similarity with how Bolas is described on Amonkhet as a god ruler of Amonkhet. Anyways, the meditation plane was a pocket dimension Bolas has created. This plane was accessible only through Dominaria and was only be able to be used by Bolas and his close followers, such as Tetsuo Umezawa, who also defeated the Bolas on Dominaria. Such is the connection with Dominaria, Bolas, and the meditation plane. It is simply the fact that by going to Dominaria and telling the Gatewatch to later regroup at other place, Ajani sets up the theory that the meditation plane is in fact Amonkhet. If Ajani goes to Dominaria and the Gatewatch follows him later on, it creates an opportunity for them to travel to meditation plane, which once again is only accessible through the Dominaria. To summarize, this theory is based on the visual similarity of the Amonkhet basic lens and the art of the meditation plane of Bolas. It is also based on the fact that Ajani is currently residing himself on Dominaria and therefore offers a possibility for Gatewatch to travel to Meditation Realm, which is accessible only through Dominaria and is now called Amonkhet. However, this theory has problems, and there is the triple P. Number one is population. Amonkhet is described as a plane with, well, denizens on it, the gods, the Bolas himself, and the average population we saw from the plane art spoiled. However, we know that after mending, no planeswalker was capable, at least lore-wise confirmed, to travel to planes with other non-planeswalkers. So this begs the question, how was Bolas capable to populate an entire plane? Granted, before the mending he was all-powerful and created an entire plane by himself, and he wasn't alone to have done it. Sarah created her entire realm with her entire population. Karn created Argentum, now known as Mirrodin, now known as Phyrexia. But as we know in the lore, the Bolas' meditation realm was not populated, and we assume that Bolas had to do it, well, after the mending or shortly before, which brings us to point 2, the purpose. Why would Bolas possibly do it? He doesn't seem like a guy who relies too much on others. And here comes another problem. If Bolas created a meditation realm, a plane only accessible from Dominaria, and he then creates a pocket dimension of Amonkhet, what's the point in this? Why would have a population completely and utterly isolated from the rest of the multiverse? And once again, to go back to population, how was he able to bring life to it if it wasn't there to begin with and he wasn't able to bring it through? And then finally we go to last one, partial connection. Visual imagery is of course seemingly convincing, but it is only thing that is supporting this entire theory. As we know, Bolas is a bit of a selfish guy. It won't be surprising for him to leave his trademark all over where he goes and claims to be his territory. We see it in the Gem of Becoming, we see it in the Pools of Becoming. Why would Amonkhet be any different? To summarize it once again, while there is some connection and some argumentation for Bolas to have created the Pools of Becoming, which is now known to the outside world as Amonkhet, it simply doesn't make sense because there are also some other contradictory theories, such as the reasoning, the ability to create a plane with inhabitants, and the fact that the only connection there is visual. So this sums up the theory on the Amonkhet being the meditation plane. Now let us move to some extra theories that I decided to put into here. Those theories are relatively short and connected to Amonkhet in one way or another. So let's begin with the one that I consider the least interesting ones and move to the ones I consider the more interesting. Theory number 1. Naturalise will see a reprint in Hour of Devastation. This theory is once again based on visual imagery from the sets of Eldritch Moon and Kaladesh. In the Eldritch Moon, we saw an instant called Spring Sage Ritual. It costs 1 green and 3 of any color, and it destroys target artifact or enchantment and gives you 4 life. In Kaladesh, we saw another instant called Appetite for the Unnatural. It costs 1 green and 2 of any color, destroys target artifact or enchantment, and you gain 2 life. It is very interesting because those two things do exactly the same thing, but there is a pattern seeing in the mana costs and the effects. The mana cost goes by 1 down in between the blocks, and so does the life gain. In the first we gain 4 life, and in the other we gain 2 life. It is quite possible that in the next set, which is the Amonkhet, we will see an instant that costs 1 green and 1 of any color, and it destroys a target artifact or enchantment, and you gain 0 life because you subtract 2 life once again. There is already such an enchantment in Magic the Gathering, and it is called the Naturalise. Therefore, it is quite possible that Naturalise will see a reprint. Therefore, the question is, why an Hour of Devastation? It is because Eldritch Moon was a set number 2 out of the new Innistrad block. Kaladesh is set number 1 out of the Innistrad block. This creates a pattern of 2 and 1, and therefore it would be technically appropriate for the Naturalist to be reprinted in set number 2 of Amonkhet block, which is called the Hour of Devastation. However, this comes with an underlying assumption that the life is subtracted and not divided. Therefore, it is also possible that if we divide this life by 2 here, we will get a 1 life heal spell that also destroys artifacts or enchantments for 1 green and 1 mana of any color, making it a completely new thing in its existence. Theory number 2. Vraska is on Amonkhet. This theory is based on an interaction between Jace Beleren and Ral Zarek during the events of Kaladesh and Aether Revolt. Ral Zarek says that he has created a device that allows him to track the activities of planeswalkers in the multiverse. However, when he was tracking Vraska, she planeswalked seemingly into nothing. He wasn't able to retrieve a signal to where she went to. This brings an interesting question. Where could Vraska possibly planeswalk to that Ral Zarek cannot see? And funnily enough, Amonkhet fits in here, if we go by the theory that Amonkhet is Bolas' meditation realm, which is why. Amonkhet, if it is the Bolas' meditation realm, is only accessible through Dominaria and nowhere else, which can explain why Ral Zarek's device was unable to track Vraska. She just vanished into oblivion because she went into a plane not accessible from any other dimensions. But this theory comes with a problem. According to Ral, Vraska has planeswalked from Ravnica to an unknown location, meaning that there is in total 1 planeswalk act confirmed. However, if we go by the theory that Amonkhet is the meditation realm, it would require Vraska to planeswalk first from Ravnica to Dominaria, and then from Dominaria to the meditation realm, which means there is a step in between these planeswalk. If Ral did not detect it, it means that Vraska cannot be on Amonkhet. Another much bigger problem with this theory is that my skepticism towards Ral's ability to know every single plane. Unless the fellow has pre-ordered Planechase Anthology, which he did not, it means that it's highly unlikely he knows of every single plane in the multiverse, considering that Amonkhet wasn't even a plane to begin with that we players knew of. If the theory that Amonkhet is the meditation realm is correct, then we as players knew of it, but if it's not, it's a completely different plane. Whichever the case is, why must we assume that Ral Zarek has data on every single plane there is? For all that we know, Vraska could have just planeswalked into a plane he didn't yet register. However, her appearance on Amonkhet would be quite interesting, because it will bring her character arc with Jace Beleren further into motion, and maybe she will be working for Bolas, which would add more to the fun of the story. However, with the spoiled packs of Atlazan containing images of a Gorgon, it is also not so far of an assumption that maybe Vraska will appear later and will go to support the claim that Ral Zarek doesn't have data on every single plane there is. Theory number 3. Gatewatch's tragic arrogance. This theory has to do with the fact that Gatewatch has destroyed the Planar Portal, a device that Tezzeret was building on the orders of Nicol Bolas. This theory also has another tie with another sub-theory. Bolas is fighting Phyrexia. When I said before that before the mending the planeswalkers were capable of creating the entire planes and planeswalking with another beings that weren't planeswalkers, After the mending, which Bolas was very heavily affected by, he was no longer to travel with other people around him, nor that it was something that he was used to. However, Bolas has expressed tremendous concerns about Phyrexia or New Phyrexia in the past. He even sent Tezzeret as an agent to spy on Phyrexians, with the purpose of delaying its unification as much as possible. Now here is an interesting part. The Magic the Gathering community mostly views Bolas as an evil of the story, and it is not necessarily incorrect. However, this begs the question, why would Bolas be fighting Phyrexias, who are also the evil of the world? Well, this is actually based on very simple logic. Phyrexians threaten to destroy all life there is in the multiverse, or at the very least corrupt it into something else. Bolas might be a villain in the multiverse, but he is, to paraphrase one of the famous people in the cinematography, one of the idiots who lives in it. Therefore, it makes sense for Bolas, an incredibly wise and powerful and ancient being, to put aside his villain agenda and fight a much more greater and terrifying evil. Which brings us to the case where he needed the prototype Portal 4 that Tezzeret has constructed. Bolas is no longer capable of planeswalking with other people around him. However, he has trained an entire army on Amonkhet that will be fighting Phyrexia, and therefore he asked his henchman Tezzeret to devise a portal that will allow him to travel between dimensions. If that portal was constructed and given to Bolas, Bolas would be able to lead his armies into Phyrexia and hopefully destroy the Praetors. However, Gatewatch, in its tragic arrogance, did not see through this plan, and therefore they just went and destroyed the portal because they viewed Tezzeret as a dictator and an evil man, and did not think about the long agenda. It would actually be also a very, very interesting twist in Gatewatch's story. Many people have now grown a little bit tired and skeptical of Gatewatch's chain of successes. They were able to defeat 2 Eldrazi Titans, then they defeated the 3rd Eldrazi Titan, which was revealed to be the most powerful of them all, and then they traveled to the new plane of Kaladesh and defeat Tezzeret, a very well-known and powerful planeswalker. It is very odd and somewhat tiring to see the main characters succeed so well and so easily and so fast. Wouldn't it be very bittersweet to find out that the Gatewatch, in its attempts to do what is right, actually has done Multiverse a great disservice by killing that was a bit of a misstep. By dealing with Tezzeret and what they seemed as a threat, they have doomed the entire universe, as Bolas no longer is capable to help fight the Phyrexians. Theory number 4. The worthy are the gods. We know very little of the Amonkhet lore right now, but what we do know is that there are 5 gods that oversee this plane with Nicol Bolas on top of them all, and there is a trial of the 5 gods to weed out the weak and for the strong ones who pass the trial to become the worthy. My theory is that those who become the worthy are also the ones that become the gods, and when they become the worthy, they challenge the existing gods, and if they are victorious, they become the gods. This theory is based on the fact that Bolas, if he is creating an army or is to fight either Phyrexia or somebody else, is looking for the strongest among the strongest among the strongest, and therefore has created this tournament to find out those that are worthy of his attention and are capable of performing his tasks. And if the worthy are to succeed, they then will replace the pre-existing gods. This is actually a very short theory for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, it has little material to either support or disprove it. It is seriously fan fiction. And reason number 2, this theory isn't really significant. It goes more into the lore of Amonkhet, but as far as we know now, it won't necessarily impact much of the story. However, this cannot be said about my last theory, which is 2 sub-theories in itself. Theory number 1, Amonkhet will fall, and theory number 2, Gatewatch will not fight Bolas. Let's go with the first theory first. That was a bit of a misspell. The fact that Amonkhet will fall is what I think will happen after the Gatewatch arrives there. By all intents and purposes, if Amonkhet was created by Bolas, it is an artificial plane, such as Serra's Realm or Argentum, now known as Mirrodin or New Phyrexia. Such artificial planes created by planeswalkers are said to be extremely unstable, and eventually, over time, they will be destroyed. This also is a link towards Bolas. When he was the emperor of the Madara Empire, he wasn't able to fully manifest himself over there because his sheer presence would devastate the place and the plane of Dominaria. Therefore, he had to appear in a shrine where three energies, the red, the black and the blue mana, were converging, and he would appear as an avatar. It is somewhat similar towards other planes. For instance, on Serra's Realm, Serra is created a plane of entirely white mana. When Phyrexia, aka the black mana, appears on her plane, it actually taints the plane and corrupts it to a state that Serra cannot stay there any longer. Similar with Argentum, the Phyrexian oil corrupts Mirrodin and turns it into a new Phyrexia, a twisted version of it. The point being that when some otherworldly force interacts with an artificial plane, things go sour. And what is about to arrive on Amonkhet? That's correct, a Gatewatch, a group of planeswalkers with different mana alignments. Which means that if they arrive on the plane and will display their power for much too long, it will create disability within the plane. Let's remember that Bolas is a character that is associated with 3 mana colors. Now, of course, lore-wise, Wizards of the Coast cannot make Amonkhet only 3 mana plane for the reasons of keeping gameplay competitive and interesting, and that is why there are 5 gods. But quite possibly the last 2 colors, the green and the white, that Bolas isn't associated with, are present on the plane in very small amounts. However, Gideon, a Hieromancer, and Nissa, the Animist, are about to arrive on the plane. Those are the channelers of white and green mana. What will happen when those two interact with Amonkhet for a long time? Eventually, it might destabilize the plane, and therefore it will collapse, which is why the second set of Amonkhet is called the Hour of Devastation. This would be interesting for 2 reasons. Number 1, the plane that we've been newly introduced to will be destroyed in a very interesting way, which might not be really interesting for those that wanted to stay and return to it later, but it would also serve in a very interesting way to dramatize the plot. We did not see a distraction of a plane in a very, very long time. This would surely be a dramatic turn for Gatewatch. And number 2, the Gatewatch, the group that decides that it fights for the good of the multiverse, will commit a terrible deed. They will be responsible for the annihilation of an entire world. It will be a very heavy toll on them as a group and will force them to rethink themselves. And once again, it will be an enormous defeat for the Gatewatch, because they thought that they would travel to a plane to fight for good, and in the end they would end up being the plane's doom. But this brings us to point B, that Gatewatch will not fight Bolas. Now this here is purely speculation, because I do not think it would do Bolas or Gatewatch justice to fight each other. Here is why. Bolas is viewed as one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse. He is able to seize your thoughts by just a touch. He has fought Tezzeret, Chase Beleren, he has fought many other beings such as Lashrak and Ugin and many more, and emerged victorious. It seems rather dubious that a Gatewatch, which consists of enemies that can be easily manipulated by mind attacks, which was illustrated by both Eldrazi and Obnixilis, Gideon, a Hieromancer, which even though he is capable of doing some complexing thoughts, as we saw in the lore of Kaladesh, is still a soldier that can be easily manipulated and has a severe guilt complex that was caused by tragic arrogance when he killed his friends. Chandra, a hothead that can be very easily manipulated into doing the wrong decisions. And once again, Chase Beleren, one who has fought Bolas many times, was defeated all of those times, and knows that he is no match against Bolas. Liliana, that knows Bolas all too well, and she also knows that he is much more powerful than her. And finally, Ajani, who has admitted to have won with Bolas only by cheating. It seems highly unlikely that those people will be able to face Bolas and, well, quite frankly, to even be able to hold their ground against Bolas on his home territory. However, it would be quite interesting if their appearance will destabilize the plane so much that it will start deteriorating, which is the point A, and therefore Bolas will ask them to help evacuate citizens to, say, Dominaria or other place. This way, the story will be able to hold Bolas as a villain with an agenda. However, it will not show just how powerful he is, and it will not make Bolas and the Gatewatch fight each other, which will keep the suspense between them going. It will maintain the fact that Bolas is a powerful character, and the fact that he will not fight the Gatewatch will leave his great powers somewhat ambiguous. Those were all the theories that I have thought about during the spoiler reveal of the Amonkhet. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that those theories are decent? Do you think that they are based on made-up claims and they are not very supportive? Do you think that some of them will be somewhat realized in the lore? Do you think that some of them are completely unrealistic with the current lore? Well, it was Sharky Pro Diver, and see you next time.